Greetings, gentles and ladiesmen, ExoParadigmGamer here. The Legend of Zelda series is near and dear to my heart. I've played through virtually every game in the series, Europe and Japan exclusive Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land withstanding. I have very few complaints about this series, even with some of the more divisive titles like Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. But if there is one game design choice in modern Zelda that really rubs me the wrong way, it's Nintendo's strict and irrational aversion to voice acting. Voice acting has become an expected and entrenched part of modern game design. Look at all the mainstream gaming releases on the Cornbox and PlayStation since the mid-1990s, and I think you'll find it hard to dispute that voice acting has been a key part of the gaming experience for quite a while now. While the quality of this voice acting has not always been amazing, the overall quality standard has been pretty good since the early 2000s. Many of Nintendo's other series have embraced voice acting. Star Fox has had it since the Nintendo 64 era. The last two main series Metroid titles had quite a bit of it. Kid Icarus Uprising for the 3DS had some exceptional voice acting. Xenoblade Chronicles, a Nintendo-produced RPG for the Wii, had tons of it. So that leads me to one simple question. Why the flying hell is The Legend of Zelda, arguably the best and most critically acclaimed of Nintendo's first-party franchises, still using text boxes? I understand why many games in the past could not have had voice acting. The NES, SNES, and Nintendo 64 games just didn't have enough space in the cartridge. But by the 6th generation of the GameCube, PlayStation 2, and the original Cornbox, there was no excuse. Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword should have had voice acting. Let me be clear. I am not suggesting that modern Zelda games are awful and terrible just because they don't have voice acting. In fact, if you watch my exorbitantly long review of Skyward Sword, you'll find that I really enjoyed that game, warts and all. What I am saying here is that voice acting is a part of gaming modernity. When we pop a game into our next-gen systems, we expect noise to come out when the characters move their lips. For Nintendo to continue to neglect this expected element of modern game design nigh 20 years after it was adopted is really glaring. For franchises like Mario or Kirby, I can understand why they choose text boxes or even no dialogue at all. Mario and Kirby aren't really story-driven franchises. They don't have especially developed characters, so in those cases, voice acting is not at all necessary. Frankly, I don't blame Nintendo for ditching it after Sunshine. But Zelda is a different beast. Zelda is a series of adventure games, which are by definition a story-driven genre of video games. And as Zelda has become increasingly more story-driven since Ocarina of Time, and especially Twilight Princess, the continued absence of voice acting undermines Nintendo's ability to tell a complicated and detailed story. A lot of people out there, including Zelda series producer Eiji Aonuma, will say that voice acting doesn't affect the gameplay, so therefore it's unnecessary. I think that this is a simplistic way of looking at the gaming experience. Gameplay is absolutely important. It's the reason why we're playing a game and not watching a movie. I, like many other people, consider it the most important part of the gaming experience, but it is not the only important part. The fact is, gentles and ladiesmen, that the gaming medium is an experience with multiple facets and layers. There's gameplay, but there's also graphics, music, and yes, story. To focus entirely on gameplay and ignore the rest leaves an incomplete experience. Imagine a game with the greatest gameplay you could possibly imagine, except the graphics were just a bunch of black and white squares and there was no sound. While Zelda has definitely not neglected graphics or music with recent releases, and while the storytelling has even improved in terms of the writing and characterization, voice acting remains a missing piece of the Zelda experience. To those who say that voice acting doesn't make a difference in storytelling, I retort that it depends on the game. For something like Kirby or Mario, it's not really needed. For something like The Last of Us, which is an incredibly story-driven game, voice acting is required. In general, voice acting, when done right, allows the characters in the game world to really jump out and connect with the player. I find myself thinking of the Ratchet & Clank series, and the hilarious antics of Captain Copernicus Leslie Quark. Would Quark be such a fun and memorable character if the suave and over-the-top voice of Jim Ward wasn't a part of him? Would Quark be as interesting if you spent the entirety of the game looking down at a text box? That's the problem with text boxes. They're distracting. I want to pay attention to the action of a scene. I want to pay attention to Impa's subtle body language as she scolds Link for failing to rescue Zelda, but instead, I have to keep looking down at a text box for fuck all knows what reason. And the Zelda series has so many great characters in it. I love Impa with her athletic ninja skills and vast well of wisdom. I love Ganondorf with his over-the-top villainy and conniving backstabbing manipulation. I love Midna with her one-noted ambition and strong character development. I love Zelda with her sense of responsibility and independent agency. I'd love to see what voice acting could do for all of these great characters, what it could add to the story and the lasting appeal of future Zelda installments. There's so much potential here, but Anoma and many of the fans have collectively decided that it's not going to happen. I used to be on that side. As someone who had only played Nintendo consoles up to that point, which tend not to have much voice acting in general, I didn't really see the point. But that all changed a few years ago when I got into PlayStation stuff. I played Kingdom Hearts, I played Ratchet & Clank, I played Naughty Dog's games on the PS3, I played all sorts of stuff, a vast majority having decent to great voice acting in it. Not until I had experienced what Nintendo's competitors had to offer did I truly understand the impact voice acting could have on the gaming experience. Having replayed modern Zelda games since then, I've realized that it truly is a missing piece of the puzzle that really has no reason to be missing. I feel like the pro text box Zelda fans out there who continue to insist that voice acting would ruin the series need to dig into some PlayStation and Xbox games to see what voice acting can do for a game's story and universe. This irrational and nostalgic aversion to voice acting in Zelda needs to end. The fact that Hyrule Warriors has chosen to continue this trend in the year of 2014 just makes Zelda look bad. I am aware that there is a risk of getting bad voice acting, which of course is worse than not having it at all. Metroid Other M, which was developed by the folks who brought us Hyrule Warriors, had mixed voice acting at best. But I think that Kid Icarus Uprising proves that voice acting in Nintendo games can not only be done, but it can be done exceptionally well. Would Hades have been such a devilishly awesome motherfucker if the luscious voice of Scott Bullock didn't serenade us with his nonchalant villainy? I seriously doubt it. If Nintendo wants to stay the course of making Zelda a story-driven experience, building on the tradition set by Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, if they want to compete with the offerings of Square Enix and Bethesda Softworks and Namco Bandai, if they want to make a truly great next-gen Zelda experience that'll really blow our socks off, voice acting is a must. It is time, Anoma. Make it happen. Until next time, I'm ExoParadigmGamer, and I hope you enjoyed the editorial.